Hello, everybody, and guess what? It's that time again for that Yearbook Podcast with those yearbook people. Yay!
Yay!
So, one of those people is Sabrina Schmitz from Tampa, Florida.
Hey!
And another one is Jim Jordan from Sacramento, California. Hello, Jimmy.
Hello.
Okay.
Good to be here, Mike.
Yeah. And then
Timothy.
we've got our producer, our wonder girl, our wonder lady, the magic behind us, Danielle Fitch. And we're all excited to be back for the second episode of that Yearbook Podcast. And basically, we're calling ourselves those people, those yearbook people.
Those yearbook people. Yeah.
Those yearbook people. Yep.
How are you guys doing? How's everybody doing?
So good.
Doing great.
Nice,
It's that
nice
time
and
of the
chilly
year.
down here in Florida. I'm getting to wear a sweater.
Is it really? Because I'm in California right this second, and I'm not chilly.
I had to put my heat on.
Oh
It's
wow!
cold.
What?
Well, I mean, like, it's in the 50s, but it's still cold.
Ask Danielle what the temperature is.
It's a blistering 30 degrees. It's
There you go.
Oh, that's cold.
Yeah,
That's very cold.
So today,
dream.
our podcast is about what we do, what we think we have and do best. I think it's about relationships. So, Jimmy,
Yeah.
you want to talk about the beginning of the podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. We decided one of the most important things right from the get-go is to start building relationships with your staff, among your staff, between your staff. And that really starts right from the beginning, because if the staff isn't getting along, if you're not getting along with the staff, you're going to have a big problem trying to finish a yearbook. So we all know about this. I'll ask Mike and Sabrina how they feel about those dreaded team building and icebreaker activities. But it turns out they are really important.
Yes, like when you hear those words, everybody kind of goes like, ugh, like, please don't make me do it. But I mean, honestly, like they're fun. They really do work. If you can find different ones, like dig around, search for things. There's some unique different things out there. So it doesn't have to be the same old, same old. But I think sometimes those things can be fun ways to see, especially at the beginning of the year, see the different personalities of people on your staff, see who your leaders are, see who your quiet ones are that just like revert and like hide back in the corner, your little social butterflies. Like you really start to get to know the dynamic of the people that you're working with when you play games, when you have fun.
And I don't think that team building brings my hair stands up on the back of my neck kind of feeling, unless I'm in a school related situation with administrators and other teachers, because they bring out the exact same thing they did last year. And it's like, get to know your partner. We have tons of cool. We have them on our website. Danielle's going to probably put the link to them right now on this chat. Also, go to places like minutetowinit.com. I think it's .com. And Minute to Win It gives you a gabillion minute to win it kind of icebreakers. So the more fun you can do with hula hoops and red solo cups, carefully, and spaghetti noodles and marshmallows and balloons. There's a gabillion of them, and they're fun. And by the way, they're great photography, great photo.
And I want to give a shout out to a session that I did in Advisor Academy last year on the Yearbook Olympics. Yes. And you know what? You give those assignments where you get kids in groups, you mix them up. You have editors, you have freshmen, you have all the different groups, and they compete. And my shout out goes to Andrea Negri, who actually listened to that session and did it. And she's been sending me stuff all year long about how helpful it's been
And
to
she
bring her staff
posts
together.
it on her social media. I love it when you guys post on your social media. I want to see it, unless they're bad pictures. I'm kidding. But I like to see your pictures and post them on your Facebooks and your Instagrams and your Ys or X's. I don't know what it is. Post it out there because that's going to be a relationship builder.
Yep. And just remember that this is something that you're doing all year long. It's like as the advisor, you're taking the temperature of your staff. How are you getting along? How are their relationships going? And so you probably have to meet periodically as editors and just say, how are we getting along here? How's it going? I mean, I have some of those, I have some horrible stories. As the year progressed, they stopped getting along.
Yes.
And it turned ugly. So
and that comes out in the quality of the book too. Like when you're not getting along, I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but sometimes you can look at a book and just by looking at the publication itself, go like, you guys had issues, didn't you? Like you can tell when a staff is not getting along. Yeah, because it comes out in the quality of the publication. But like Jim said, it doesn't have to be an event. Like it could be fun. I remember we were super tense. Like everyone was stressed out. We're probably coming up on those days now in January, February, March, where things are like tension filled when you walk in the yearbook room because everyone's stressed about deadlines. And I think with a bunch of 17-year-olds, we played Heads Up, 7-Up one day, like the game you play in 3rd grade where they're walking around pushing down people's thumbs and stuff. We played 4 corners where they're like running around different. And we just for like 10, 15 minutes and had a blast. And then it just takes the tension in the room, like way down. Just nice. And
sometimes around this time of year, relationships form among your staff. And that's always, that scares me. And I'm talking about like boy, girl, partner relationships. Because the minute they break up, now I got to deal with that. Here it comes. I'm watching them.
You're dating until the deadline is done.
That's what I do. I tell people they're not allowed. I'm not asking them to get married. And if they do, they must stay married until my book comes out because I ain't having none of that.
That's right.
I just don't. I dread Mondays because they went on dates on Friday night and Saturday, and they broke up, or the day after Valentine's Day,
or before.
Yes, when the kid has no money. When one of the partners has no money, they break up.
I had one year where 3 female editors liked the same guy all year long.
Oh.
They were never getting along very well.
Recipe for disaster.
So anyway, we just have to keep working on relationships. As I've, looked back on my career, there was a time when I thought the book was most important, but as I got doing it more, I really came to realize that building relationships really was the most important part. So with good relationships come good books.
What did you guys do if you had a tense situation between 2 people? I didn't want to get involved with that. And I also didn't want it to leak out into my yearbook room. I would tell both of them to come to see me, throw them in my office, say, when you work it out, you can come out. That's how I'm so gentle. But what did you all do?
I used to try to get it out of the yearbook classroom as fast as possible. Like I remember 2 editors, as soon as you said that, like, you immediately go back to this moment in time in your head. And I'm like, I can picture sitting at my desk and like, I thought they were joking at first. And then I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, no, they're really like yelling at each other from across the room. And I was just like, get out, like get out of the classroom.
You don't need to be that, bring that in here.
No one is doing anything. Like the production has completely stopped and everyone's just like staring at this like showdown going down in the middle of the room. So I got them out of there and then we talked out in the hallway. Same thing. Like we had a closet we called Narnia, so I was like, you guys can go into Narnia and talk this out, but we will not be doing this in the middle of the classroom. And I let them talk to me individually, but then I let them talk themselves and
Yeah.
figure it out away from everything else. But man, you don't need that kind of energy in the yearbook room. It's stressful enough.
Not this time of year, and
Yeah.
not any time of year, not any time of year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the next kind of relationship. We could talk about our staff relationship forever, but what about our the next really important one, on campus relationship with administration, other teachers, counselors, all that?
hmm I think that's one of the things where like you said, Jim, the when you have good relationships with your students, and like we're talking about games and stuff like that, and you're playing with them, you're having fun with them, the good publication comes as a result. Like that,
Yes.
though, those kids want to work because they want to hang out with you, they want to be in that room, they want to do that stuff. But outside of that, you also need like a village of people to help you get things done sometimes. And that's your bookkeeper, that's your custodians. Like we used to always, like if we had leftover
Coaches.
food or pizza, we would give pizza and food to the custodians at night after school and be like, here, like have a great time. When we bought t-shirts for the staff, we would always give the bookkeeper a t-shirt, the head custodian a t-shirt, our principals a t-shirt. So that way they felt like they were a part of the team. They were part of being the supporting the yearbook staff, and that we were appreciative of them. um and I think that stuff is so important, because when situations do come up, either like, let's say you have a controversial spread that you either
Yeah.
need some help getting approved, or need some support and backing on, or you're wanting to take a trip or something like that, and you need like your admin approval or support or funding. If you cultivate those relationships up front,
Mhm.
then it makes those other situations when you need
Yes.
their help a lot easier. I was very thankful to have an amazing administrator,
Yeah,
to the
you
point
did.
where like she came with us to New York when we went to go to Columbia for CSPA. Like she would come with us and hang out with the kids and come to the awards and stuff. And I've seen a lot of administrators do that. Like I think that's awesome, because they see what it is you're working on all year. They see the value and the importance of it. They're there to celebrate when the book comes out and make it a big deal. And that bleeds out into the rest of the school community too. So
Yep.
Yes.
cultivating those good relationships makes a big, big difference.
We used
And
to I went to Publix back in the day, and Publix would give me apples for all my teachers on day one. They would just give us the apples. And we put an apple in every teacher's box and said, this is so that we can interrupt your class and do all the things that we're going to be a pain in the butt about.
Mhm.
And I did it for so many years that then Publix started giving me special cookies, and they
Ooh,
gave them
even
to
better.
us. I know they were like apple shaped cookies and Publix did it. And
Cute.
so my staff knows me, and you two know me, and Danielle knows me. I'm an obnoxious character. Imagine that. And I'm
No.
going to teach my kids to be obnoxious about the yearbook. And so they let us roam. They let us do a lot of stuff because they knew we were
Mhm.
doing our job.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, and my administrator was amazing. All of them were.
And I think the
And
fun stuff is really good too, like the cookies and the t-shirts and the, all taking care of them and making them feel like special and a part of it. But I think communication was a big thing as well. Like I remember when I started putting
Yes.
out, like up front, like I would at the beginning of the year, I would tell teachers like, here's all the picture dates. Here's when we'll be doing club
Mhm.
pictures. Here's the senior piano. Here's all of those things where I'm going to be definitely interrupting the school day. Here are the dates, so don't put your English test on this date and then be
yes.
mad at me later because I told you up front. And I found that they really appreciated that, because then they at least knew they weren't so frustrated when they had planned, and then all of a sudden like, surprise, senior piano is today, like they appreciated that communication, even with bookkeepers, about budget and funding and all that. Like anytime we were communicating, we were on the same page, saved us a lot of problems later.
Yeah, and for me, it really started with the principal.
Yeah.
I would go in the summer when the principal's just there, without all the fanfare, and just talk to him or her about your goals for the book. about what you're trying to do with your staff. We complain a lot about the administration doesn't care and they never come into my room and all that stuff. Well, you go to them and invite them in and meet with them to let them know how
Yes.
serious you are about this book, and start right with the principal. Don't be afraid of your principal. They want to put out a great educational experience for everyone and explain why your elective is so rich and so important to the whole school community. I think that will go a long way. Another thing is, don't forget about your counselors. You want to have your counselors loving you so you can avoid having Yearbook become a dumping ground for people that don't really want to be there. So,
Absolutely.
all these relationships, don't make your teachers mad because you pull kids out of class all the time.
No.
Figure out a better way to do that.
Yeah. And I think bragging on your book sometimes, like bragging on your kids, bragging on your program to the school, to teachers, admin, so they know like what a great job they're doing, I think helps like people understand how big of a production this really is. But even getting that word out to like the parents, to the community, so that they know that that's such a big thing too. Like, making sure that they understand that this is not just for book sales, but for support, like for getting pictures and content.
Does Sacramento still have a print newspaper, Jim?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
we do.
And
It's
Tampa
smaller
does
than
as
some
well.
high school
Yes.
newspapers, but
Well, and so in Citrus County, the Citrus County Chronicle was easy for us to brag about things that we did and letting our community know. Soon after we started sending press releases to them, they were coming to us and for photo ops and story ops. And if we went to New York, the Citrus County Chronicle, I know that like 5 people read it. I'm kidding, but they would start. They would bomb us, and we were on the front page. It's the Citrus County Chronicle, but it didn't matter. Our community started getting engaged and started having a relationship. I remember one time my kids were selling ads to businesses back when you did that. A lot of people don't do it anymore, but the local florist called me up and said, "Your kids have not been in here. Why?" And I went, "Excuse me?" Well, they're the ones that supplied all the roses for the homecoming and prom course. They're the ones that did a lot of stuff, and they wanted their ad in my book. Well, I learned my lesson real quick about that community relationship. I want your $450 for my for a full page ad, and I got it. They didn't complain.
another great way to connect with your parent community is get on those mother Facebook
Yes.
groups.
Ooh.
We found out about that during COVID. That's how we got so many pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Can you send us some homecoming, on the side picture stuff? But get on there and let them know when senior ads are coming, and let them know when the book's coming and what they can do to get their copies, and just really flood those local groups, and you will make friends.
As much as they have a negative account, and they do, they have a positive account. Ask Leland Millette. He has mothers and fathers fighting for the yearbook. You don't know that my kid was up there till 2 a.m. working, and sorry, they spelled there incorrectly.
Right.
You don't need to be making a big issue about that, because those people do that. But you have people in your corner on that group. You don't have to say a word. And that's the best part.
And the more visible that your staff is at events around the school, like if they're visible at football games, if they're visible at the drama production, if they're visible at other events that parents are at, then those parents are seeing those kids in action in the creation process, have a little bit more respect for like, when you see how it's being made and that those kids are giving up their time to be there, they're a little bit more, they'll tend to be a little bit more supportive, especially at the end of the year. If their kid's name is spelled wrong, maybe they won't go off the handle, because they've seen them in that process of making the book and creating that content.
There's a book out there, and it's a Disney book, and it's about how Disney does everything. and it's, why can't I? The Disney way,
I think it's the Disney way.
yeah, read that and have your kids read it, because I'll tell you why. A lot of yearbook advisors and a lot of kids get on social media and start complaining about parents. You don't want to complain about them. They have another kid coming. They have a nephew coming. They have a
Good
niece
point.
coming. You don't need to be complaining about the people that are supporting you. Take the criticism, be gracious, and move on, and offer a help. Disney value, one of the Disney values is everybody walks up and says, where is the Disney parade? Well, if you think about what Disney is, it's down Main Street. Oh, not that hard. And they know what they're asking. They say it's at 3 o'clock. That's not where the parade is. That's when the parade is. Disney has anticipated what is the parent wants. So be gracious with your parents when you're dealing with social media.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a whole other side of this too is like we know like as Walsworth reps and your CSRs and the people at the company, we know that you're trying to manage all of that in the same shot. You know, like you're trying
Yes.
to manage, you know, communicating with parents and making sure that your school administrators are on board with what you're doing and your staff is functioning correctly. You have all of these other avenues of communication and relationships you're trying to manage. We want to be the ones to help you manage all of that. Like we are a partner in it with you. When I think of the schools that I work with, I always tend to use the language we, like not you need to do this or you need to do that. Like we need to work on this or we need to focus on such and such, because I think it's really how we view it. Like we're a partner in this with you, you know, like we're your teammate, like we got your back, you know, like you're not an island unto yourself working on this. But if anything, like in your relationship with your company, with your rep, with your CSR, you know, with area managers, with Mike and Jim, and you know, like all these other people that you see in your Walsworth family, computer support, you know, the biggest thing is just communicate. Like tell us what's going on. I feel like sometimes I'm sure you guys have seen this, get text messages from people that say, oh, I'm so sorry to bother you. I don't want to bother you. Like you're not bothering us. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Like
We want to be bothered.
yes, like tell
That's
us
right.
what's going on. We would always rather know than not know. You know what I mean? So don't hesitate. Like if you've got questions, if you need help with something, if you aren't sure how something works, like you just let us know what that is. And we're
Right.
going to be here to help you navigate it and figure it out and put you in touch with the right people. But you got a whole family
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, now you see your rep all the time, you know, he or she comes in and supports you, but get to know your CSR. I mean, I have over my 35 years, Mike, of being a yearbook advisor.
Damn.
Oh, oh my gosh, I can't believe it took this long.
I know. I got
Good text. Thanks, Danielle.
I got to know my CSRs and they were amazing friends. And I knew if there was something that I needed them, could you go in they would get up from their desk, they would go into the plant and they would check on where some pages were. And I would know that the book was going to be great because they were checking it out. And then I used to take my kids to the plant on a plant tour, and they got to meet some of the people who were working their pages. And I always tell the story, he's no longer there anymore, but John Hamilton always worked the color section in Walsworth. And
Was he that guy from the dollar bill? Was that
yeah. No, not Alexander Hamilton, John Hamilton at Walsworth.
His brother.
And he took good care of us. And we all know people that are press operators and binders because we've had the privilege to be there. We know how much they care. So build those relationships. It's really important. It's real. And
I will say
you're the richer for it.
Yes. I'll say one of my most prized possessions was a million years ago, but we had won a gold crown and a pacemaker one year. And my rep got that book signed by everyone in the plant. And so on the front end sheet and whatnot, it has all these people that like I've seen their names on emails, or like when you go to plant visits, like you finally meet them, you know, but like anybody that touched that book had their signature on it. And it just like warmed my heart, because you see like how many people are there, a part of making that book for y'all, you know, and that care about it and that are passionate about doing it with excellence and doing it right. So that was just like an awesome, an eye-opening moment of like, man, there's a lot of people on my team here, you know, and having that relationship with them, and that they care just as much as y'all do, just as much as all of us do.
Absolutely. Hey, and another kind of relationship is when you look outside your building and even outside the production part of the book and begin to make friends in the journalism community, or to find mentors in the journalism community. At Walsworth, we are on our 8th year of our advisor mentor program, where we will hook you up. Talk to your rep about this. If you're a new advisor, we hook you up with an experienced advisor, hopefully in your area, and they come alongside you. You may not need their help all the time, but it develops a relationship. And I do know there's some of these groups who have come together who are still friends even after they become experienced advisors. So it's a way, if you're an experienced advisor, to pass it, to pay it forward. And it's a great way to share your expertise with new people. So developing relationships. And in my yearbook life, I got involved with instructors at camps that I went to early on. I got to be at a camp early on with Bruce Watterson and Tom Rolnicki, who headed up NSPA at that time, and H.L. Hall, and they became my dear friends. And I count them great friends today, 35, 40 years later, because they came alongside me when I was young and helped me be better. And both of you, I remember we did an elite weekend with Mike over 10 years ago now. And who's this woman from Florida? I hear she's really good on coverage. And she gave this amazing session, and
she's brilliant.
And she was brilliant.
I've never been more nervous in my life. I'll never forget it. It was Jim and Renee Berg, Pete LeBlanc. Like, I remember just going like, I am nobody. Like, why am I here? I was so nervous, but they were just the most kind, welcoming, encouraging, supportive group. And it made me fall in love with this stuff that much more.
Hey, Jim, how does somebody get involved with the mentorship? Can you give us a rundown real quick on that?
Yeah, really quick. First of all, speak to your rep.
Yeah.
And if you want to be a mentor, the rep will hook you up with a link to a website where you fill in all your information. You see what's required of you. Danielle Finch, who's, our podcast goddess here, she is also helps me out with that. And we have a big database going. And then when the new advisors come on board, we put them in the database if they're interested. They fill out a form, and then we match you up, and we kind of follow you along the way. It's really self-directed, but if you want to be that, we'll get you going, either as an experienced advisor or a brand new one. But we want you to feel supported.
And a mentorship is a big deal. When I was a brand new advisor, I'm the only guy in the school doing what I'm doing, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And I created my mentorship. I walked up to Rick McNeil at an FSPA district workshop, District 4. Yay, District 4, FSPA.
Hey.
And I walked up to him and I said, I went to your session. Can I come to your school? Rick McNeil at the time was like the Jim Jordan of the century. He was a big deal. He took me in and let me come to his school. I'll never forget that. And I'll never forget FSPA for allowing me to do that. I am not the kind of person to walk up to somebody, but I loved what I was doing, and I was doing it all wrong. And so Rick McNeil took me down that path and showed me. And then through FSPA and through NSPA, CSPA, JEA, I started to form a lot of relationships. And they're very cool to this very, very moment.
And that makes you want to
Mike
keep
knows
doing
everybody.
it. Yeah, oh, that is for sure.
Yes,
He does not. Anytime we're at a convention, he doesn't stop talking. until
Yeah,
he leaves. Because
I
there's
don't-
people just like Mike, coming up there all the time. But it makes you want to keep doing it, doesn't it? Like
Yes,
when
yes,
you
it
start
does.
to build those relationships,
does.
that's how you get people that do it for 35 years, right, Jim? Like you
That's
get
absolutely
you get
right.
into this world, and like this is where all your friends are. Like this is all your yearbook people. It's your yearbook fam.
That's right.
And that's a big, that makes you, not only does it give you the support to like ask people questions and or vent, like when you need to just like get something off your chest
Ooh,
to
I'm glad
somebody
you
that
said
like,
that.
knows what's going on, but just like makes it fun. Makes it
Yeah.
fun.
One
And
of the
you can
things. Oh, go
you
ahead.
can
Jim.
ask questions and not feel like you're dumb. Like I
Mm-mm.
remember I would call HL Hall and say, how do we caption a group photo again? Will you teach
Right.
me that one more
Right.
time? Do we put the name of the yearbook on the front cover? Do we have to put the theme name on the front? I could ask somebody who knew the
Mhm.
answer.
And Jim had to
Yes.
climb a telephone pole and ask for Edna to
Telegram.
Send a
HL.
carrier
Telegram.
pigeon.
Yeah.
A
Um,
carrier pigeon out there. And
It worked.
One of the things that is, I want to put a warning out there to everybody because of our times. We have multiple journalism groups that are on
Yes.
social media. And a lot of people get into those social media groups and whine and complain. And then there are also what I want to call the really, you think you know it all people? Where they think they're experts and they're gurus and they're leading you down a path. And I don't want to make this a big negative. They're leading you down the path of really, that's not the way to go. I suggest for our Walsworth yearbook people, go into the Walsworth Advisor site and join it. Anybody can join that. So if you're from another company listening to us, all of you, you can join that and ask your questions there. You're going to get the Sabrinas to answer. You're going to get me to answer. You're going to get Jim to answer. Danielle answers. Our reps will chime in. You will get the real answer without getting somebody that thinks he knows everything and really doesn't.
And we've had, people at the vice president level read some of those and they got some answers because they cared that much. I know a number of times where, what are we doing about this? And she got it taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. And go to, like, I think we mentioned, Mike was talking about FSPA before too, like, but you'll meet a lot of these people that you see on
your state,
these
yeah.
Facebook groups. You'll meet them in person at your state FSPA convention or a summer camp. For sure. Like that's when you've got time where you can really sit and talk with other advisors and get ideas and brainstorm and get feedback from them on how they, not just on your book itself, but like what do you do in your classroom in this situation? How do you deal with your administrator, in this scenario? And a lot of times people from the same areas are dealing with the same like state laws and rules and regulations that they're having to abide by. So going to camps, going to workshops, going to conventions, even broaden that base of friends out to not just in your own little neck of the woods, but like on a national level. And the bigger that your yearbook world gets, I swear, the more fun it gets. Like
That's right.
the more you enjoy it.
And I want you to love yearbook as much as I did and have it bless you and your life as much as it did for me. So we're here to help encourage you. And, we all need more friends, right? So we're here for you.
And okay, so hey, Jim and Sabrina, guess what we've added to our webinar? Our podcast, excuse me.
We got those two.
Yeah, we do have those.
Sure.
We have a new segment run by our producer, Danielle Finch.
Yeah, so we have a Facebook group for Walsworth Yearbook Advisors specifically. So Mike posed some questions, just anything that ranges from being an advisor. So we wanted to take some time to answer a couple of those for you today. So the first question is, I took over a class when administration made it an easy A and is a dumping ground. I spent first semester arguing with the seniors and their parents. How do I fix this?
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's hard.
And we're laughing because we've pretty much been there in different formats, each one of us. I'm going to tell you right now, I would start semester number 2 with a mandatory meeting of my staff and parents. And here's where you can get mandatory on it. If you're planning on going on any trips this spring, if the parents don't have a good reason for not showing up, then you know what? They don't go on the trip. The student doesn't go on the trip. But you need to have some kind of meeting with your parents right away. Don't be afraid of them. You're the advisor. You need to put your foot down.
Mhm.
And also you need to, this is kind of in the middle of it, and it's hard to correct sometimes in the middle, but anybody that's starting out, you want to try to get with your administration and your counselor and try to avoid it becoming a dumping ground,
Yeah.
because it's a hurdle that's really hard to get over when you have kids in the class that don't want to be there. And
There's
so
too
you want
much
to try
money
to,
in that class. There's too much
Yeah.
expenses.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And if you can get it to be an application class for the future, like obviously that helps you down the road, when you can recruit the right students to be on that staff, the ones that want to be there, the ones that have the skill set to be there. But in the interim, like until you can get to that clean slate and have, an opportunity to recruit and have student supply, I would, like Mike said, you kind of have to have a balance between like putting your foot down and then trying to do whatever you can to make it fun, and make it as structured as possible, because they're not, it doesn't strike me as they're the type of students to take the initiative and just, go out and start photographing in their free time and interviewing people. So it's probably going to have to be a little more handholdy, up front of like, we're going to go get interviews, we're going to take pictures, we're going to, place things into the spread until you can move into more of that we've got the right kids on staff area. But also all the fun stuff we were talking about earlier, the playing games, the incentives, the more you can incentivize them of like, hey, if we get to this many spreads done, or if we get X amount of photos in, then we'll do a game day or a party or something like that, just to help hopefully break them out of this like habit of bumping heads.
Let's move on to the last question. So this one says, teachers are getting annoyed with all of my interruptions from my yearbook staff. Come to find out, my kids are just wasting time. Please help.
Another great one.
Shame.
So they're walking down the hall, looking in the windows of a chemistry or an AP history class, and they're going in saying, I need to get pictures, and they really don't. That's all 3 of us have been there. That's part of the structure of the classroom. That's also part of the communication you'll have with your teachers. You want to make sure that if a student is caught doing that, there are consequences. They won't be leaving your classroom any longer. They won't, they're not going to be allowed to go out. I used to, that cartoon that was on the Sunday paper, the Family Circle. I had those posted in my class because it always showed the one kid going to get sugar from the neighbor, and he would take a trip around the neighborhood. Well, I had that kid. I always had that kid. Always looking in, always barging in. Yeah, he doesn't need to be on staff much longer.
And give them a time. I was going to say, give them a time limit. Like if because I've even had it to where other kids on campus were impersonating yearbook staffers and just going into classrooms saying like, oh, I need to see Jim Jordan for a minute to do an interview. And they weren't even on yearbook staff. So like then we had a whole other problem of like an identity theft happening on campus. But
press passes.
Press passes help with that. And I would also email a list of all the kids that were on staff out to the faculty so they knew. But also like if they're wandering and wasting time, like if I know they're going to this particular classroom to do an interview, you've got 15 minutes max, you need to be back here, and that way, I mean, it's kind of a pain that you have to do those things, but you might have to put an editor or something in charge of that to make sure that they're not taking a whole class period to go get one quote. And really they like went to the bathroom, saw their friends, got a snack, and wasted all this time.
All right, everybody. thanks for this podcast.
Yes.
And remember, you can get that Yearbook Podcast wherever you download podcasts from. I again want to thank Danielle, our producer, for keeping us on time, because Mike, Jim, and Sabrina don't do that well. And I want to thank my buddy Jim Jordan. He may be old, but he's young at heart and young in spirit, and we love him. And
True.
Sabrina, I just love you. Now that I'm in Tampa, we get to go
Yay.
pirating even more.
Pirating together.
I'm jealous.
All right, we'll see all of you on the next podcast.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to That Yearbook Podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on your preferred platform. Happy yearbooking!